Well, hello and welcome to another edition of On Deck with Avoya, your weekly travel update. I'm your host, Greene, Director of Network Growth for Avoya Travel, and we're very excited to spotlight one of our cornerstone resources today, technology. In our Meet the Team feature, as our special guest will be Chris Watson, Senior Engineer for Avoya Travel. Chris's computer expertise behind the scenes are directly connected with the ability of our network and team to have the most user-friendly, powerful, expansive technology offered by a host or franchise company. There is truly a direct correlation between the advancements in Avoya Travel's technology to the ability of our affiliates to be the highest grossing affiliate base in leisure travel. I look forward to chatting with Chris here in just a few minutes. Well, the heat is on for the CDC and it's coming from multiple sources. Will it lead to cruising from the United States this summer? We'll cover the latest in our Eye on the Industry feature. We'll have a couple of great promotions still active for an experienced and qualified travel professional to join the Avoya Travel Network, and we'll do an overview of those towards the end of our broadcast. And of course, make sure you have all the ways to reach out, because that's our top priority, to engage with you, the travel professional, to share information and details on our industry-leading resources, our exclusive live leads, live agent support, best-in-class professional development, and the before-mentioned world-class technology. And that'll be a featured part of today's Meet the Team feature. So let's get started with this week's On Deck with Avoya, your weekly travel update. Well, as I said, the heat is on for the CDC as we look at the latest in the saga to resume cruising from the United States. Florida has filed a lawsuit in federal district court against the Biden administration, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC, citing what it calls an unlawful conditional sailing order, and that's prevented the cruise industry from restarting voyages from Florida ports. Now word that several United States senators have sponsored legislation that would also repeal the conditional sailing order from the CDC. On Tuesday, Senators Rick Scott, Dan Sullivan, Marco Rubio introduced the careful resumption under improved safety enhancements, the Cruise Act, which would revoke the CDC's current no-sail order on cruises and require the CDC to provide COVID-19 mitigation guidance for cruise lines to resume safe and domestic operations. Senator Rick Scott quoted as saying, "Florida is a tourism state with thousands of jobs relying on the success of our ports, cruise lines, and maritime industries. While many sectors of the economy have been safely operating for months under CDC guidelines, Floridians and those in the nation that rely on the cruise industry for their work continue to wait for updated guidance from the CDC. The CDC's refusal to properly address this shutdown is wrong, and it's time to get the cruise lines open. Our bill, the Cruise Act, says we're not waiting on the CDC any longer. Cruises can and should resume, and we're going to do everything we can to bring back our cruise industry." ASTA, the American Society of Travel Agents, as well as the CLIA organization, have both vocally supported those moves. Zane Kirby, president and CEO of ASTA, said in a statement, "We stand with U.S. Senators Rubio, Scott, Murkowski, and Sullivan, and our partners at the Cruise Line Industry Association, CLIA, urging immediate action and express our support for the legal action being taken by Governor DeSantis to immediately rescind the CDC's conditional sailing order." Time will tell how this whole saga plays out and which vendors will continue to have the patience to wait and see before they pull out of the United States and set up shop elsewhere, as several brands have already begun doing. In breaking news today from our friends over at Silversea Luxury Cruises, the company has announced their return to service, slated for June 18th of this year, with 2 rotating 10-day itineraries that will be round trip from Athens, Greece. The sailings on Silversea's new flagship ship, the Silver Moon, will include stops in iconic locations like Santorini, Mykonos, and Crete. It was announced just yesterday that Greece will be open to American travelers starting next Monday, at least those who can produce either a negative PCR COVID test or proof of vaccination. I know many of our luxury cruise specialists in the Avoya Travel Network must be overjoyed with this news. Avoya Travel is proud of our amazing relationship with the team at Silversea. Also in cruising news, the uncertainty in the market and the lack of information from the CDC has forced Victory Cruises to cancel the inaugural season for its expedition ship, the Ocean Victory, in Alaska. They've pushed that back now to 2022. Now, the Ocean Victory will be sailing in Antarctica this year for the winter season as a charter for Albatross Expeditions, and Victory Cruises will still have its other 2 vessels busy this summer, with the Victory 1 and Victory 2 sailing the Great Lakes this year. Great news from our friends at Globus. The Globus family of brands has announced that it too will resume international operations in June for the first time since last March. Globus and Monograms will return to international travel while also expanding domestic offerings for regional travelers in Australia, New Zealand, and the United Kingdom for both Globus and Cosmos. Scott Nisbet, the CEO for the Globus family of brands, said, "We have spent the last year preparing for the day when we can resume travel and look forward to sharing with travelers the incredible vacation that they've been dreaming of, looking forward to, and deserve." And finally, news on the travel closer to home front. An iconic property on the Las Vegas Strip has been sold. The Tropicana Las Vegas Hotel and Casino has been purchased by the Bally's organization, marking their entry into the Las Vegas market. The deal for a reported $308 million would just be for the property, not the land too. All the intellectual property, the actual property, the land they have to lease back in an extra 50-year deal for $10.8 million per year. Wow, the money that happens on the Strip in Las Vegas. Bally's already owns 14 other casinos in 8 other states, including Bally's Atlantic City and the Mont Bleu Casino in Lake Tahoe, Nevada, which they recently closed on. No doubt about it, Las Vegas is going to be very hot, and I'm not just talking about the weather, but travel as well this year. Avoya Travel has many collateral assets that an affiliate could use, including a whole section on travel closer to home and our brand new marketing resource center. All of that done in the effort so you can close more business. Please reach out and schedule your consultation with a network expansion specialist. They would be more than happy to provide all the details on this and all of our exciting resources. Well, time once again for my favorite segment of On Deck with Avoya, your weekly travel update. And this week we pull back the curtain on technology with Chris Watson, Avoya Travel's senior engineer. Chris will be joining us here in just a moment to talk about some of the amazing technology that's fueled Avoya Travel's reputation as the top host technology in the industry, having racked up numerous awards for that endeavor. Avoya Travel's patented and exclusive technology platform is called Agent Power. It's the technology component that both the affiliates in the Avoya Travel network rely on for so many aspects of their business, but it's also the technology that many of us that are employees of Avoya Travel depend on to successfully manage our day-to-day tasks as well. We certainly invite you to reach out and request information, engage with a network expansion specialist, and they can schedule a sneak peek of this amazing technology. I'd be happy to facilitate that demo for you. Our special Meet the Team guest this week, Chris Watson, Senior Engineer for Avoya Travel. And while things that Chris is responsible for are behind the scenes, the value and importance for the Avoya Travel network they provide just can't be understated. Chris, welcome to On Deck with Avoya, and thank you so much for your time today.
Well, thank you very much. Very pleased to be here.
Chris, I guess as a solid starting point, and maybe for my own knowledge, can you tell me a little bit about what being an engineer means and how you got started in that line of work?
Well, a software engineer writes code. I mean, that's pretty much the basis of it, but it's a little more than that. I can't write a line of code in the programming language that I know without totally understanding the customer requirements. So that's very important too. If I have a complete overall overspanning understanding of the customer requirements, then I can write good, usable code. But that's my job. I write lines and lines of code. I think for Avoya, I've probably written a couple of million lines.
Wow, that's unbelievable.
How did I get? Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Finish.
You asked me what started me in this. Well, I think maybe it was probably my father-in-law way back in the early 80s. He bought an Apple IIe and I learned how to program BASIC on it. And I just caught the bug right there. So I've been in computer programming ever since.
Cool. And you've been with Avoya Travel for quite some time. In fact, you go back to when we had our old name of America's Vacation Center. Prior to joining the company, did you have a passion for travel personally? Or do you just think, hey, this is a good job, good company, solid benefits, the whole thing like that?
More of the latter, because when I was younger, my parents really didn't have the wherewithal to make our family a real travel family. We didn't do a lot of traveling, and so travel wasn't a big thing in my life. When I started my own family, then I had some travel opportunities, and we did do some traveling, so I enjoy travel very much, but never got exposed to the inner workings of the travel industry and selling travel until I was hired at America's Vacation Center nearly 15 years ago.
Now, I alluded to the fact that Avoya Travel has just won numerous awards for our technology, and it's certainly one of our core resources. If you're somebody that's thinking about affiliating our technology, that resource is certainly something that should percolate to the top of your list. Chris, tell me a little bit about that commitment to having our technology always be elite. I mean, you must be really proud of the recognition that that component of Avoya Travel has received.
I got to tell you, I'm so proud. I remember the warm and fuzzy feeling, the real sense of accomplishment that I got when we won that first award. I'm sorry, I'm not remembering. I think maybe it was a Travi, I'm not sure, for the Avoya Smart Value System, that system that I designed and developed that presents additional value aside from just the cruise fare for everything travel. And that was a wonderful, wonderful feeling. I am so proud of what we've created here, the whole team, and I'm so grateful to be an integral component of all of that.
In fact, I think every single week that we've hosted this Meet the Team feature, we've probably highlighted a resource, at least even in passing, that you were, partially responsible for inventing, or I'm not sure if that's the right word, but it's certainly, just valuable in everything that the rest of us do. So we certainly appreciate that. Our guest today is Chris Watson. He's the senior engineer for Avoya Travel. And Chris, many of the advancements you're responsible for have become key aspects, as we've been talking about, of our offering that enables current and new affiliates to work more efficiently, stay more competitive. Can you tell me a few highlights of the things that have started off as a back-end idea that are now just vital to the Avoya Travel network?
Well, if you want to talk about my role in the company specifically, I think you really have to think that the back end work that I do has stayed back end. So it's not so much something that was worked on in the behind the scenes and then came to the forefront. Everything I do is behind the scenes. Really, that's the truth of the matter. But everything that I create, everything that I program and engineer, facilitates, drives what is presented to the customer, to the independent affiliate, to whatever is the front end. So I've done so many, as a matter of fact, the first thing that I ever created when I was hired at America's Vacation Center was the new suite of components that made it possible for us to communicate with Sabre, the Sabre GDS. So before that, it was just like this peer-to-peer weird network system. But then they came out with web services, web-based services. And I was responsible for coming up with the way to talk to Sabre efficiently and correctly. And that has been the backbone for everything we've done with Sabre since then. So I build the components and then everything stacks on top of it.
So then it's safe to say that every search that an affiliate in the Avoya Travel network makes when they're using our agent power system, or every search that a consumer makes while they're on Avoya Travel's consumer-facing website, started with a line of code that you were responsible for.
Absolutely, yes. Whenever you're talking cruise content, whether it be sailing availability or cabin categories or rate codes or anything like that, it comes from Sabre, and I'm the guy who wrote the code that gets it from them.
Now, everybody in the travel industry has been facing this COVID-19 crisis for now over a year. And I've asked many of our fellow teammates about how COVID-19 has impacted their specific role and what they do and the priorities that they've had within the company. I'm assuming, Chris, that your position is no different. COVID has kind of shuffled the whole deck and you've had to have a whole new set of responsibilities and priorities.
We still have to maintain the kinds of things we've always done. I mean, software has bugs, software has problems, software needs improvement. So what's out there now always needs to be maintained. There's that component. But with the COVID era, now we've got the opportunity to focus a little bit on some of the things that have been sitting off to the side for a while and we haven't really had time to get to, or we work with efficiency initiatives. I've been doing a lot of that. I've been working on administrative tools that make other people's jobs a lot more streamlined, a lot easier. For instance, booking transfers. You know, there's been lots of upheaval in the travel industry in terms of the agencies that are selling, and people, unfortunately, they come, they go. And so there's a lot of existing bookings out there that need to be sent from one agent to another. And that process has been very manual and very time consuming. But I developed a new tool that allows you to do it in 5 minutes. So if you've got an agent that's got 20, 30, 40 bookings that need to move to someone else now, I've got a tool that lets you choose the two people, create a date range, hit the button, you're done. So what used to take a day takes 5 minutes now. That's the kind of stuff I like working on. I like working on new tools that make other people's jobs easier.
Yeah, efficiency, right? I mean, time directly leads to money.
That's right.
Equals more sales, more commissions, and all the ways that we all butter our bread is taken care of. Chris, one last question for you about your role with Avoya Travel, and probably one that's a little bit outside of your normal wheelhouse. But if you were just like having a casual conversation with somebody that was a travel professional thinking about, searching for a new home, they're looking at host agencies, what is it about our technology and that commitment that should put Avoya Travel on that list and percolate towards the top?
I ran my own business back in the 80s. It was a graphic design business, but back then there weren't computers that did that stuff. I mean, it was just ink on paper, but I still had to use the best tools. I had to spend the money to go get the Rapidograph technical pens. I had to spend the money to get the nice clay coat paper, the nice straight edges, the nice French curves and circle templates and all that stuff, the best tools for the job to do the job right. I'd have the same kind of response for someone looking at Avoya and our technology. Why would you want to start a business in travel, selling travel to this world, selling vacation memories to these people without using the best tools for the job? I think what we've got here in Agent Power and all our other systems is the best. And I am so very proud to be a part of creating that environment to run the business efficiently, to run the business cost effectively. It's just the best. So why would you not do that?
Absolutely. We're very proud of the fact that our resources are the elite resources in the industry, and it allows us to have elite results. Chris Watson, Senior Engineer for Avoya Travel, is our featured Meet the Team guest this week on Deck with Avoya. And Chris, for just a moment, let's not talk about you as the senior engineer, but let's talk about Chris Watson, the person. In fact, I'm not going to sing it, but let's do the time warp again, right? The Rocky Horror Picture Show is probably the biggest class movie-wise I think it's ever been released. And if you've ever had the pleasure of being at that midnight showing when the crowd participation just amps that energy to a whole new level, it's just something to witness. You've had a chance to be part of that on a local level where you live. Tell me a little bit about that fun experience.
Well, this was quite a while ago, but back in my college days, I got involved with an informal performance group that went up in front of the movie screen every midnight on Saturday night, and they'd show the Rocky Horror Picture Show film. And we would dress up and get into character and reenact the entire movie in front of the screen for the audience while it was going on. I had the opportunity over, I think it was probably nearly 100 different performances to play the criminologist, the expert that narrates the whole thing. Played Riff Raff a couple of times. I played Eddie, the biker, a couple of times, but most of the time I played Brad because I was the perfect skinny nerdy guy. So I was a really good Brad. There were too many people who could play Frank really good, so I never played Frank.
But no doubt you can take a jump to the left and a step to the right.
I know that song and all the moves by heart, as well as every line of probably about 4 characters. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it over the course of about 2 years. Loved it.
I bet. Yeah, I've had a chance to see it a couple of times. It's always a fun experience. So on top of being a computer programmer, you're a skilled astronomer. Tell me a little bit about your advanced stargazing and that commitment.
When I first got started in it, I fancied myself as an observational astronomer. I did have a telescope. I wanted to get into astrophotography, but I quickly found out that really wasn't my bag. When computers became a big part of my life, that's what became important to me. So I became what is known as a computational astronomer. So over many, many years, I've worked with professional astronomical data and derive science from it. So I go off and I converse with professional astronomers and get their data from their papers, and I process it in different ways. And I love just finding new science insights, what they call serendipitous science, which is basically you take data that was gathered from some astronomical survey for some other purpose, and you look at it and find new stuff. You find new stuff that maybe they weren't looking for, and also errors. I went through a lot of data, found a lot of errors, and transmitted that back to the professional astronomers. They really appreciated that.
I bet they do. Wow, I mean, you live such a fascinating life outside of work. I kind of feel boring in comparison. Tell me about being a musician and back in the day, your 15 minutes of fame, back when MTV still showed videos.
Right, back in the good old heydays of MTV when M really meant music.
Right.
I was involved in several bands, playing in bands. One of them was called Spot the Dog. We made a video for one of our songs, and we just on a whim, we decided to send it in to MTV Basement Tapes.
Sure.
And they selected it. We were amazed. So we were one of 6 bands one week that got the videos played, and they had a number for each one of us, and people called in and voted for us, and we came in second to last.
Yeah.
But still, it was a thrill to see the video on MTV. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, and for it to happen during the heyday too of MTV makes it just cool for sure. Chris, we all hope that we're closer to the end versus the beginning of this COVID crisis. What about an amazing travel adventure maybe that you've been on, and maybe one that's on the bucket list that you're hoping as soon as international travel resumes that you might be able to, take?
A few years back, I was lucky enough to win a Uniworld river cruise down the Danube. That was a magnificent trip. My favorite, bar none. We've sailed from Passau down the Danube to Budapest. Vienna was the highlight. I absolutely adore that city now. It's fantastic, but every bit of it was great. I loved that cruise so much. I loved Uniworld and their product. I got to learn all about it. It was a wonderful experience. I'm so glad I got a chance to do it. As far as what I'd love to do, I'd really love to go on an Antarctica expedition cruise.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh my goodness, I would love to do that. Silver Sea, where's their number? This winter, are you sailing there this winter? Because, oh man, do I want to do that.
Yeah, definitely would be a highlight, I think, for any of us on our bucket list. Chris Watson, everyone, senior engineer for Avoya Travel and just all around fascinating guy. Chris, that was a really fun discussion. Thank you so much for making time and being our special guest on Deck with Avoya today.
Very welcome. Everyone, have a great day.
Thanks, Chris. Next week, Ashley Lewis joins us. Ashley is Avoya Travel's Senior Partnership and Events Manager, and we look forward to having Ashley as our special guest when that happens next week, as we're really excited each and every week to be able to feature a different member of the Avoya Travel team. So again, thank you so much, Chris. We appreciate your time for joining us today on Deck with Avoya. So let's talk for a second about promotions and the ways that you could join the network at a reduced price or maybe free. It depends on your level of experience. We've been talking about this for several weeks now, but I just want to reiterate. We have 2 active promotions. They're both designed for a travel agent that has experience selling leisure travel. If you're an advanced agent, and by advanced, again, I mean like over $500 million probably on the regular as far as your yearly gross sales are concerned. When COVID hit and you had cancels, you ended up with some future travel credits, future cruise credits. Now that you've started to see the resumption of it, you're probably seeing some action from your clients, and maybe you're thinking, I need a more competitive home as I rebuild my business going forward. For you, we have a waived affiliation fee promotion where you can save the full $495 on that initial agreement. If your goal is still trying to get to that level, if you're an experienced agent, but you're just missing maybe the resources that it would take to get to that level, then we'd love to hear from you too, because we do have a free agreement renewal promotion where we'll waive that first renewal for you at the end of your initial 6-month agreement. And with both opportunities, you can explore with complete flexibility, no long-term contract, no exclusive agreement. Contact us for eligibility. My team would be more than happy to have that conversation with you, because each and every week that we're here on Deck with Avoya, we hope that you hear something that sparks that curiosity that says, wow, where I am, we don't have that resource. I could take my business to a new level if I had that resource. Well, we would love to connect you with a specialist and have that free flow of information back and forth, have that conversation, and see if together we can't put together the beginning phases of a shared success relationship. So how can you get a hold of me? Well, I'm not that hard a person to find, and my contact information is always at the end of every edition of On Deck with Avoya. It's chris.greene@avoyatravel.com. There's the phone number. You can reach us through the avoyanetwork.com. There's just a wealth of information about our network there. Again, put in a request. We'll connect you with a specialist. You can leave us a message on either here on Zoom, or if you're watching it on Facebook, or if you're catching this down the road on YouTube. Again, leave us a comment and we'll be more than happy to get you the answers that you seek, because connecting is our #1 goal and the reason that we do On Deck with Avoya. Thank you again to Chris Watson for being our special guest. We look forward to having Ashley Lewis join us next week as our Meet the Team feature. Big thanks as always to Marissa Smith for doing a wonderful job in the background. I hope everybody has a wonderful week. Thank you for your time for watching On Deck with Avoya, your weekly travel update. Take care, everyone.